Hello and welcome to South First. I'm Anusha Ravisu and you're watching State of Play, our daily roundup of all things politics, policy and human interest. In 2019, when the Pinarayi Vijayan government decided on implementing this initiative, it was supposed to be groundbreaking, unprecedented. But now, this decision of his government has come back to haunt him just a few months ahead of Kerala Assembly elections. The Enforcement Directorate, the central agency, has now issued a notice not just to Pinarayi Vijayan, but also important members of his incumbent cabinet and members of his previous cabinet. The Enforcement Directorate, often accused of being a tool in the hands of the incumbent BJP government at the centre by opposition parties, has issued a show cause notice not just to Chief Minister of Kerala Pinarayi Vijayan, but also former Finance Minister Isaac Thomas, one of the most strongest voices of fiscal federalism, one of the strongest advocates of Kerala's financial viability, Thomas Isaac, and several others. And this notice, or rather these notices, are connected to a Masala bonds case. I will tell you what this case is all about in this show. ED's show cause notice has been issued in connection with the case involving Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board Masala bonds. Now, what are these Masala bonds? They are a term that is used in finance and economics to describe a particular type of bond that is issued in Indian rupee denomination but in international markets. A Masala bond is a rupee denominated debt instrument. It's issued by Indian agencies, Indian entities, but are issued in overseas markets. So why they called Masala bonds? Culturally tying them down to India, the land that is known for its spices. Masala, literally the term translates to spices, and hence you may find it very cringe, but that is colloquially the kind of term that is used for bonds sold in the international market, not in their currency, but in Indian currency, the rupee, or denomination, the rupee. Now, what is this new ED notice all about? The ED notice has come after the central agency insisted that it has found some irregularities in Foreign Exchange Management Act while the Kerala government raised funds using these bonds in international markets. In short, the ED is alleging that in the issuing of these bonds, the money raised with these funds and the funds used through these bonds are all questionable, are all suspect of violating the FEMA law. If this is found to be true, of course, there is a lot of scope for challenging this. The adjudicating authority in Delhi has issued a notice based on a report submitted to that authority in Chennai about 3 months ago. And the Chief Minister, Pinarayi Vijayan, along with the others who have received these notices, can respond to this notice and proceedings will follow. However, if a violation under FEMA law is found under the existing laws, a fine can be levied that is up to a maximum of 300% of the amount collected, and that can be imposed on the KIIFB, the board through which these bonds were issued. So, what is this Masala bonds issue all about? It all centers around KIIFB, the Kerala government's key agency for financing long-term development projects. It has invested quite a bit in several infrastructure projects in Kerala. But in 2019, KIIFB entered the international bond market and started issuing Masala bonds. It raised a total of about 2,150 crores through these bonds. These bonds were listed on London Stock Exchange's International Securities Market on 1st April 2019, making KIIFB the first sub-sovereign entity in India to access this route. Like I said, when it came about, the government thought in Kerala it was coming up with something absolutely unique, absolutely new. It was groundbreaking and definitely something that Kerala hoped other states will also look to raise funds to make themselves financially secure. But with great ideas, often there are a lot of criticisms, and that's exactly what happened to these Masala bonds issue as well. A lot of opposition parties started raising questions as to whether the Kerala government even had the authority to go ahead and issue these bonds in international markets without the clearance and explicit permission from the central government. These bonds basically enable Indian entities to borrow money, and this is what was happening in Kerala, that through these Masala bonds, the Kerala government was raising money from foreign entities. The question now then was about not just whether any rules were violated, but also about whether Kerala government even had the authority to indulge in this issual of bonds. Kerala from day one has been insisting that no laws have been broken, and it has indeed followed the law to the T. However, ED started investigation in this particular matter. First, it started with checking whether FEMA compliance was fully followed. The latest show cause notice is just one step further in the investigative agency's entire process, but the timing of the show cause notice has come under severe scrutiny. Other than the assembly elections in Kerala next year, the state in itself right now is preparing for upcoming local body elections that are extremely crucial, not just for the incumbent Pinarayi Vijayan government, the CPI, or the CPIM led LDF. It is also extremely important for the UDF led by the Congress, and the third player, the emerging player in Kerala's politics, the BJP. And for the BJP, the local body elections are a way of asserting its presence. While primarily Kerala's electoral contest is seen playing out between the LDF and the UDF, this elections BJP is extremely confident of making inroads, and this local body election is the place where BJP firmly establishes its presence. Establishing its presence in the ULB election means the BJP has strengthened itself for the upcoming Kerala Assembly elections in 2026. ED has issued notices on the basis of procedural lapses that it has documented. ED insists its investigation has led it to believe that procedural lapses had occurred during the issuance and handling of the bonds, promoting it to seek explanations from the Chief Minister and others who were involved in the discussion surrounding these bonds and even the management of them. The question is still not about repayment or delivering on these bonds when they mature. The state government has been putting away some money in escrow to pay off these bonds when they mature, but the agency's repayment capacity is this. This is how it has been modeled. The repayment capacity of the agency is supported by two revenue streams primarily. One, the petroleum cess receipts collected by the state, and half of the motor vehicle taxes. Now, both are channeled into a ring-fenced account meant solely for KIIFB's debt servicing obligations. Despite there being fixed revenue streams, despite projections showing that these two revenue streams, entire petroleum cess as well as half of the motor vehicle tax, are enough to service these debts, questions have been time and again raised about Kerala's capacity to repay these loans, and KIIFB has been continuously trying to insist on how it has no issues in keeping up the commitments made through these bonds. It's not like no other entity has used Masala bonds. In fact, IRFC, Power Finance, REC, and HDFC have all used Masala bonds to raise capital, but KIIFB's participation was notable because it was the very first time that a state level body was tapping into international bond market, and it was a move that was quite unprecedented. So what happened after 2019 when they started issuing these bonds? So since 2023 December, KIIFB had disbursed about 27,177 crores across a range of infrastructure projects in Kerala. Like I said, this particular board is meant for long-term, high-profile infrastructure projects in the state. Some of these key disbursements also included 13,988 acre for acquiring land for industrial parks across three major projects, including 1,198 crore for works related to the Kochi-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor, GIFT City, 200 crores for taking over the land from HNL. While everybody starts looking at the books and how these bonds are being managed, whether the state government really has the capacity to repay these bonds or etc., although there are there is money being put away, there are revenue streams that have been identified, and there have been works that have been shown as used through these bonds, etc. The ED now focusing on Pinarayi Vijayan has definitely come into a lot of political reaction. The CPIM in itself has deemed this an attempt to unnecessarily politicize a non-issue. Thomas Isaac, who's one of the people who has been served with this issue, has deemed this a gimmick by the BJP ahead of the local body elections. He insists that 2,150 crore that were raised via the Masala bonds were used legally, noting that while the RBI rules restricted land purchases with such funds, the restriction was not enforced when the bonds were issued. He insists that since there was no RBI guidelines, rules at the time of issuing of these bonds, lands were acquired for projects by KIIFB, but it was not illegal spending. He also insisted that he was challenging the ED probe in the High Court after being asked in 2024 to submit KIIFB and personal bank documents, including those of his family members. After this, he had actually convinced the court to ban the ED from summoning him during the Lok Sabha elections. The CPIM insists that this gimmick is something that will not be lost on people. People will see through it and they will understand that this was just another pressure tactic, misusing the ED, misusing central agencies, as opposition parties often accuse the BJP of. But the Congress's take is the interesting take. The Congress insists that while these notices to the chief minister is not new, this case too, much like other cases, whether it is the gold smuggling case, the other cases around which there have been controversies involving Pinarayi Vijayan or his family members, etc., have gone nowhere despite central agencies being part of the investigation. And this the Congress sees as a nexus between the CPIM, or largely the left in Kerala, and the BJP. For long, the Congress has been insisting that the left and BJP in Kerala have had a tacit understanding. This is absolutely ironical with the fact that the left is actually a constituent of the India bloc at the national level, the opposition's India bloc at the national level, in which the Congress is the biggest participant or constituent. Friends elsewhere in the country, but political rivals in Kerala, and this has been the story of India Alliance parties or India bloc parties. The left and the Congress go head to head in the upcoming elections, in the local body elections, with case after case dragging Pinarayi Vijayan's name or those involved with him, definitely has made everything political in a politically charged atmosphere. For the CPIM, or rather the LDF government led by Pinarayi Vijayan, that is already reeling under a lot of anti-incumbency, given that it was elected back to power and now Vijayan has been the chief minister for 2 terms. There's quite a bit of anti-incumbency and repeated cases where the chief minister's name is attached to controversies have definitely made things more difficult for the CPIM. Will these ED notices have impact on the local body elections is the big question, and we at South First will keep a close tab on it. Thank you so much for watching. Do stay tuned to South First.